Westonka School Board to order. If you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, this is my first go around at doing an organizational meeting, so bear with me. The school board, the chair calls for nominations for the board chair.
I nominate Gary Woolner as board chair.
I'll second that.
The board, the chair calls for nominations. Are there any other nominations for board chair? If not, thank you. Chair calls for nominations for vice chair.
I'll nominate Heidi Marty.
I'll second that. Any other nominations for vice chair? Heidi, congratulations. Chair calls for nominations for the board clerk.
I'll nominate Lauren Davis for board clerk.
I'll second it.
Are there any other nominations for clerk? Lauren, congratulations. Nominations for, chair calls for nominations for board treasurer.
I will nominate Ralph Harrison.
And I'll second that. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Ralph, congratulations. Let's see here, that takes care of that business, you guys. Swift, pretty quick and painless, right? The chair moves for approval of the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Chair moves for adjournment of the organizational meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right. I call the January regular meeting of the Westonka School Board to order. The chair moves for approval of the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Announcements. There's a facilities meeting this Wednesday, the 11th, right here at 7 a.m. The Teaching and Learning Special Board meeting, January 27th at 7:30 a.m. in Conference Room A. Finance Committee meeting February 2nd via Zoom. And a Policy Committee meeting at our next school board meeting on February 6th at 6:30. The regular school board meeting will start at 7. With that, I'd like to introduce Julian Herfel, and she will do the shares of success with us tonight.
All right, thank you, Greg. You guys wanna come on and just stand right over there? So, you wanna come on over down?
You can go up to the podium.
Oh, perfect.
You guys can head up there. Get a better camera angle.
I didn't tell you you needed to prepare a speech.
No.
I'm very proud to be here this evening. We are here to recognize two of our seniors, Laura Sonnenberg and Dylan Mather. Both of them this fall, after doing some testing last spring, earned commended status within the National Merit Scholarship Program. What this means, because a lot of times we hear those different terms and we wonder, okay, what does that actually mean? What it means is all the hard work that they've done for a very, very long time, for many, many years, not just at the high school, but at our middle schools as well as our elementary. It all kind of comes to a head in your senior year, right? And these two are being recognized by the National Merit Scholarship Program as commended scholars. That equates to them being in the top 3,400 students within the country, which is absolutely fantastic. So it's a wonderful honor, not just for them, and it says a lot about what they have achieved, but we also at the high school are incredibly appreciative of what they also give back to our building. So I want to thank their parents for joining us this evening, but also thank their parents because you definitely had a significant role in helping them be as successful as they have. And the National Merit Scholarship Program really recognizes, what it stands for is it recognizes the expected success that students are going to have not only in high school, but in their post-secondary settings also. And Laura is planning to go on for environmental science and intending to move into pre-law. Are you still planning that?
Yep.
I feel like each time we talk, it maybe shifts just a little bit. And then Dylan is also looking at going into computer science. So we're incredibly proud of their achievements. They are absolutely fantastic representatives of our building. And we also thank the school board this evening for taking time to recognize them and the supports that you have given for them throughout their years here at Westonka School so that they could achieve the things that they have and represent us in the way that they are. So thank you all and congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Congratulations.
So we have a tradition here, Dylan and Laura, that we love to shake the hands of excellence, and so if you don't mind working your way around.
I'll give you, can I give you a hug, Laura, since I know you well?
Thank you.
Dylan, congratulations.
Thank you, congratulations. Thank you. Not yet, still deciding. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Congratulations. College choices for either of them at this point? Dylan's still deciding? Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, is this like the top 1% of all the kids in the country or something like that?
So this, when you're a commended scholar, so there is different names within the National Merit Scholarship. So this is recognizing the top 34,000 within the country. So puts them, I believe it's around the top 15 to 18% depending on the year, which is absolutely fantastic. We're very proud of that.
To the Mather family, the Sonnenberg families, you both have been actively engaged in our communities, and so it makes it even more heartfelt when you have families that have kind of grown up with us as we've grown with your kids and your contributions to our schools. I think we have two families that are highly engaged with activities and academics through the different levels, and it's nothing short of a lot of appreciation. And then to see your kids find so much success, it's absolutely superb. And so you're gonna be in a cycle of a lot of this now coming up this next semester, and it's fun because we're gonna see these two families and a lot of other families almost monthly on some different things, but it's I just wanted to call out to both of your families. We appreciate you. Thanks for what you've done for the Westonka community.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you're welcome to stay for the whole board meeting. That's like the prize that you get. I know a student for that. It comes free. There's no expense. It's comped. But if you do choose that you have other things like a national football game or something like that to see, you can go.
Feel free. Yeah, feel free.
Can we too?
I'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Triple A, that's what I saw coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
You guys have a good night.
Thank you.
Kind of thin now.
Wow, exciting stuff. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak before the board tonight? Nope. All right, then we'll move on to the treasurer's report.
Mr. Chair, we begin with Benevity West Public Schools, $330. GMS PTO Grandview Middle School, $409.49. Charities Aid Foundation, Mount Westonka High School, $131.58. Anonymous, Mount Westonka High School, $5. Basketball Boosters, Rose Basketball Club, $150. Basketball Boosters Boys Basketball Club, $399.65. J. Soul All Amas Student Scholarship, $1,500. Kim Hansen Blaine Bailey Scholarship Student, $16,000. Chris Humbert Larry Excel Student Scholarship, $200. Crime Prevention Fund Student Scholarships, $2,000. Sharon Thaler Westonka Wings, $5,000. First Day School Supplies Hilltop School, $113. Mound Farmers Market Hilltop School, $200. Nancy Sapstrom Hilltop School, Primary School Art Program, $50. Shutterfly Hilltop Primary School, $766.01. Mark Reed, Shirley Hills Primary School, $100. Linda Blacksfeld, Shirley Hills for Classroom Books, $70. Shutterfly Shirley Hills Primary School, $765.51. And Shirley Hills 3TA, Shirley Hills Primary School, $10,065. And finally, Anonymous Westonka Community Theater, $634. Year-to-date total contributions cash, $96,176.14. No non-cash contributions in December. And Mr. Chair and fellow board members, I've looked at check ledger and scanned checks and all seems to be in order.
Thank you, Ralph. We'll move on to the student rep report. Olivia.
Hello.
This your first time doing this?
This is my first time. I'm not the normal. Hi, my name is Olivia Adam. I'm the Vice President for our Student Senate. I am also a junior at Mount Westonka High School. I'm just going to go over our 4 A's, starting off with activities. Student Senate held our annual weekend drive from December 7th to the 14th and collected a modest total of 316 donated items. Seniors won this friendly competition after receiving the most donations. Student Senate also met with Mr. Fisher last month to discuss relevant topics, including past events and upcoming ones like Snowball and Prom. This year's Snowball theme was also decided, and we decided that it will be Sweethearts. Moving on to the arts, both the holiday band and choir concerts were held in December with a lot of success. Mad Jazz caroled at Fletcher's throughout the last month, celebrating the season and collecting tips to contribute towards their choir tour to New Orleans next year. The Wright County Conference Honors Choir and Honors Band were hosted at the high school this Saturday with 10 different schools participating. A handful of senior singers from concert choir were also chosen to participate in the exclusive Dorian Vocal Festival hosted at Luther College in Iowa today, including Robin Baker, Connor Houston, Noah Wolf, Rosie Gomez-Gonzalez, and Serenity Bonek. That is where she is tonight. Auditions for The Play That Goes Wrong were held on December 19th, with the first read-through on January 9th. Led by director Jamie Harms and co-director Josh Barnes, the cast includes Ava Fraser, Thomas Duggan, Jack Hansen, Tristan Larson, Connor Houston, Joseph Wolf, Wesley Sam, and Serenity Bonek. Lastly, on to athletics. Wrestling and cheer have been busy with several matches, first of which was home last Friday. Girls basketball had a successful game against Tartan on Saturday, winning 60-0, and boys hockey team also celebrated a win Friday night with Mason Evenson having 24 saves. Now onto the academic awards that were given over the past week. Senate's own Natalie Miner was named Excel Award winner, as well as Laura Sutterborg, who we saw earlier, and Danielle Kazanowski were named this year's AAA award winners. That is all I have for today. Is there any other questions you guys have?
Thank you.
What is your major going to be?
International business is what I'm looking into right now.
You are delightful and a wonderful speaker in front of people. I'm like, you need to be like on a stage somewhere, girl.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Yes.
That is all I have for you guys tonight.
Thank you.
Nothing else.
Have a good evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are there any school board committee reports? If not, we'll move on to the financial report.
Good evening and Happy New Year, board members. I have thankfully a brief board meeting financial report tonight, and we'll save the longer revised budget for next meeting that's a non-football night, so you're lucky. So enrollment has been really pretty stable this year. We have just a slight dip after the holidays, which is not uncommon. We're hoping to welcome those students back, but our January 1st count was 2408. Moving on to financials through the end of December, this always makes my heart skip a beat because this means we're halfway through the fiscal year already when we're at December 31st. We have collected 10,357,000, or just about 30% of the revenue we're expected to receive this year in our adopted budget. You can see that's pacing pretty well to the prior months. Again, next month, as I mentioned, we'll be bringing the revised budget, so right next to the green column, we'll be taking a look at more accurate information with our student counts and the staff we have hired, and so you can look forward to seeing that next month. Expenditures, we have expended 14,955,000, or 43.6%. Superintendent Borg and I looked at that. Usually it's metered very closely, but as we get further into the year, we learned that those 2 prior years were COVID years. And just again, for just knowing that we have a good, even an adopted budget, we pulled out reports from 2 years ago, and typically, as far as the percentage spent in our budget, it's usually at the end of December about 42–43%. So our budget's accurate, but it doesn't look like it. When you take a look at those COVID years, it really has thrown a wrench in our the pacing, and the patterns were really disrupted. But again, we are continuing to look through that, and when we're working on the adopted budget, we actually take a look back, 3 years ago, just to make sure that our percentages and the normalcy that we're experiencing is not looked at for the prior 2 school years.
I think with that said, though, we did approve a budget that utilizes that class size reduction of $500,000, and so it shouldn't match up by what we approved, knowing that we were planning on driving down that fund balance by about $500,000.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and very appreciative for the board's thoughtfulness in protecting our students with those reserve funds. Other things, again, in our office, we're working on revised budget. We're just finishing up on the revised final draft, and our finance committee will be looking at that on February 2nd, and we'll again have that next month. The adopted budget is underway. We are in the initial planning stages. We're gathering information, reviewing our assumptions, and we'll again be creating the 23-24 adopted budget, and that will be presented in June. Just a reminder, all districts in the state need to have that approved by July 1st of each year. So again, we always do that at our June school board meeting. Again, Gary had mentioned we have our finance committee meeting via Zoom at 7:30 on February 2nd. We always have a busy agenda, looking at the revised budget, looking at our adopted budget goal, the calendar, and we have a lot of facility conversations that are of utmost importance right now as well. Otherwise, besides budgets, we are into calendar year, and so we're also doing W-2s, 1099s, and getting those out to our valued employees. So, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Kevin, superintendent's report?
Yes, couple things. So, of major efforts right now, Kathy talked about bringing forth revised budget and a budget goal for this next year. And so that kicks off a lot of our planning as it centers around staffing, and it talks about what we're preparing for this next year. This is the time of the year that we're trying to finalize what are some of the capital projects that we're looking at for the next year, so we do that review. It's our technology replacement, so where our one-on-one need to be replaced and how we secure that, what infrastructure that we need, what are the efforts with technology. With technology, we're going to be meeting with Brian, who sits on the technology committee, in the next weeks, and then we're going to be bringing a technology plan to the T&L conversation and then to the full board for your approval. And it really highlights our next 3 years of where our focus is with technology, and highlights some of our initiatives. It highlights how we're trying to take on safety and security in our buildings, and just what our next steps with that would be. I also want to share that our facilities committee has been really busy this year. We are at the stage of preparing to get further input from staff, from parents, and then the community on plans that center around safety and how our buildings are constructed that best protect our students. We're looking at maintenance needs that we have district-wide. We're also looking at making sure that our schools function in their design and their space in the way that our kids need programs. Particularly on the third point is at the high school. The last major work in our academic wings at the high school was through the '93 bond. We had a bond in 2005, we had one in 11, and we had one in 16. Those bonds addressed maintenance, they addressed some specific efforts with the activity center or the performing arts center, but it goes back to '93. Now I came in '97, but the conversations in '93, and what was key in that bond is that's when computers were being brought into the buildings and we were creating labs. It was a conversation at Grandview, should we put a phone on each floor or should they go in each classroom? And now you think about that as the design of the building, and we look at all the changes that society has taken on and also education has taken on. And what we want to make sure is when we do look at this program that we don't look towards the past of those conversations, but really we're looking forward of where do we see schools going. And so it's important for us to make sure that the work, we've done a lot of work by looking at a long list of items. We've done a demographic study, we've done a community survey, we've gotten focus groups of staff, and now we're at the stage of bringing it back to facilities committee so we can get further input from staff, from parents, and the community. What I would say to the board is I would see us after those input sessions doing one more community survey to see where things are at, and then having some conversations with the board this spring, building into the summer of what are the best steps that we could take to address these needs. And so we feel pretty good about a plan that's been well vetted, and we have some work ahead of us just to make sure we get that input. But expect at your next board meetings to have more and more information coming of how these input sessions are going. One other thing that happened today, I received an email from our board member Dave Botts, and Dave is, I think you could call it after the 23 years, retiring. But Dave has been struggling to get to the past few meetings, and there has been some family health conditions that he's had to attend to, and he feels like he cannot do both to how he'd like, and he's, after 23 years, 19 as chair, he is resigning his position. And so we're gonna set a date in which we can honor Dave. Dave, 23 years ago, we had our board meetings at Shirley Hills Media Center. This building was not constructed at that time. The amount of efforts that he has been engaged with go from the Thaler Center to the sale of the downtown property to the 2005 bond, the 2011 bond, a lot of different levies, taking on one-on-one devices, and you go on. So a lot of history. All 17 years of mine, the superintendent before me, he even connected the superintendent before that. And so really long history with Dave, and we'll have a time to recognize it. But the role of the board is when someone resigns, it's our job to fill that until an election does fill it. Heidi has seen that process, and we've done it twice in my time. And so what I would be proposing to the board is that I work with Gary, and then I work with the policy committee to come up with a plan of how we fulfill that statute of making sure we fill this position. I would be recommending to you that we do it like the 2 times we've done it in the past when I've been the superintendent, where we would be posting that people can apply. It's a simple application. That from that, the board will review. Actually, it's a committee of the board will review applications, and then the board would actually select whether you'd select it from applications, or if you chose to interview, you'd have that choice. If you see through this process, we believe that meeting the different guidelines, we could appoint a board member by the May board meeting. That's only a few months for this person to sit as a board member, because their last day would be the first Monday of January, which is January 1st. So they'd be on as a board member for 7 months. In November, Dave's seat was coming up, so that would be open to the public to determine and elect who they think should fill that role. But in the short term, by statute, you do need to appoint somebody to this role. They don't give you a timeline, but that is a requirement. So we've connected with the School Board Association about our past practice, and that still holds current today. But we feel that it's important, instead of us presenting you exactly that plan, that we take it through a committee of the board to bring to you, for you to vote on in a way that you can, one, accept the resignation, accept this process and timeline that we move forward. But I would really see the month of February being a time, like if we followed past practice, that people could apply. March, you'd be selecting some finalists to discuss whether you want to do it through interview or discuss it at a board. There's a point where that can be challenged, that you gotta give that time, and then in May, they could be sworn in. So that'd be about as fast as that would be done.
Do we need to make any motions tonight to accept Dave's resignation or to begin this process of at least allowing you to post it, or?
Nothing at this time. I think we looked at it, and I think when, in talking to Gary, I felt like, and Gary can speak up if he disagrees, but he was in agreement that we wanted to, this happened this morning. And so rather than present it in a way that all of a sudden there's this late agenda item, we felt it was best to make this announcement, get this organized, and take it to the February board meeting. I would expect the district to be communicating out to families and staff tomorrow morning about this resignation, so people are aware of it. And then we would be letting them know at the February board meeting, we'd be approving a process. But on one hand, really appreciative of Dave's service. Now we're moving forward with the statute of filling it. It's short term. It's gonna be just for a few months, then it'll be elected. I think, if I remember, when Ann passed away and you put your name in for it, it was 2 years, because that was what was left of that, and then you did it for another 4. This will be different because his term was actually coming to the end. So if he only had 3 years left, someone would be going for election for 3 years. The reason why it's 4 years is Dave's term was actually coming to an end.
And I talked to Dave today too, and it was a hard decision for him to make, but the right decision with family and things that are going on, and he wanted me to convey how proud he was to work with everybody he's worked with over the years. So we'll move on for this. We'll find somebody to fill the gaps, and we'll move ahead.
Yeah. I would say spring of what you can expect from myself and some of our district staff is we'll help prepare the policy committee for looking at this process, so that can come before you and assist you in how we can help organize that for you to make that decision. We have a budget to get approved. We have a tech plan to get approved. We got facility planning moving forward. You're gonna hear more about some of our mental health efforts of programming. Those are some of the key things that we look forward to bringing before the board, on top of a lot of celebrations that always, which is a good thing, it dominates. One last thing on your agenda today, I am proposing to you that we make one adjustment to the school calendar, where we move the May 5th teacher workshop day to a student contact day. When we make a decision like this, it is to to choose meaningful days that we feel like can make a difference for our kids. And when you look at the days that we have left of calendar, you have days that center around President's Day or spring break, where we already know a lot of families have made vacation plans, and it's not a productive day. When you go after the last day of school, you've already set graduation, and the meaningfulness of those days that you add in at the end of June, you just don't get the same return. However, this May 5th day can be a very productive student learning day. And so what we're proposing is, we plan long in advance staff development days, and they hold a lot of value to us. It's just that we're putting a greater priority of making sure our kids are in school. Now that impacts secondary kids, but primarily our primary kids, it's really, we have choice boards for their parents to engage, but let's not think that that's an offset of being in school. And so right now we've already had three days, and we're the first week of January, and March and April, we know if you look at the number of days, that's when you get hit on maybe a couple more. So our reason of bringing this up so soon is we want to give people time to prepare for that change of workshop so they can do that different, and for parents to be on notice that that is a student contact day. We have 5 e-learning days. Right now we've used 2 of the 5. I'd like to think that that would be a wild stretch of the imagination that it would get to that, and I just hope to continue to think that.
I don't know, Mother Nature's,
I don't know if there's any questions about that day or on snow days, but happy to answer those as well.
I think I asked this before, but how did that transition go when you call a snow day and it's gonna be an e-learning day? How does that roll out, and how does that look?
I think there's one thing that probably the pandemic helped. So if you even think back last year, we had 2 weeks where kids did distant learning. And so we have a secondary group of students that are pretty knowledgeable about when we go to an e-learning day, what that looks like. We also have a staff that understands how that works. And so I think they work hard to make the most out of those days, and give a lot of credit, first of all, to Jolene and Christy and their teams, because not only did I do an e-learning day, I did a delayed start e-learning day. So if you want to talk about curveballs, I gave them the knuckle there. I mean, that was up and down and around before they had a chance to communicate. And so I think they work very fast, but they do a lot of pre-work of the what ifs. I think there's communication to families that this could be happening. I think there's a past history of knowing how to work with these systems, but never, ever is there anything as good as being in person. But I think as far as people being familiar with those systems, they're pretty familiar.
well, and I think the right decisions were made, and everybody
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
conveyed that. I mean, it was safety issues, and we did the right things, Like I said, we've already got more snow this year than we had all last year, so it's gonna be one of those years.
I would say when you're trying to project snow and they give you 3 to 7 inches, you have a lot of opportunities to be wrong. But I would say on each one of those, they turned out to be pretty significant. And even the one before winter break, where it seemed to be slower to develop, when we looked at some of our western neighbors that did a 2 hours late, they ran into some concerns that that's what we're trying to prevent, and we're just trying to make sure that people are safe. That being said, you get a lot of changes to schedules and you push everyone's patience, and I hope as much as anyone else that we're done with those calls for a little bit.
Thanks, Kevin. Chair moves for approval of the consent agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Hold on 1 second, hold on 1 second. I need to abstain on number E2. So under the retirement resignation, my husband is E2, so I'll abstain
And-
from that one. And then on the contract approval, number 4.
Okay.
Otherwise, yay everything else. Thank you.
Should we,
Yeah, you can just pull those 2 and then do a second vote.
pull those two, and then, approval of consent agenda, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Kelly is not on those other ones, okay.
Yep.
Yep,
We're
and then
good.
do a vote for those 2.
Pardon?
Or then do,
Okay,
so you did a vote for,
Everything except those.
We have to re-vote for those 2 line items.
you have to do
Okay.
one more for those 2 line items.
all right. Chair moves for approval of E2. Can I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Kelly will abstain then?
Yes.
Yeah, abstaining on that one,
Abstain,
yep.
Yep. And then, on the contract approval, number 4, for Kurt, can we get a second on that one?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And Kelly
I'm
sustains on that too, so, all right,
Thank you.
no problem. All right, chair moves for approval of action item 8A, approval of the 2023-24 budget planning calendar. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair moves for approval of adding a May 5th student instructional day. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is there any other business anybody has? If not, I move for adjournment. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Have a good evening, everybody.